are going to keep the innovation discussion going if we can get into these chairs. Not easy. So you just got to hear a lot about longevity, and this conversation is the perfect follow-up to that because you are looking at 3 women who are really working to change the way we receive healthcare in this country. I'm going to ask each of you to talk about the work that you do and specifically frame it within this idea of the problem that your company is solving. And Barguma, I'll start with you. Talk to me about open evidence and what they are doing that is really changing the game.
Yeah, hello everyone, and I'm very excited to be with these beautiful ladies. And so I just want to talk about my company. I don't know if you heard about Open Evidence. It is a ChatGPT for doctors, and doctors can ask any questions about any treatments so that they can get the answers very quickly. In the meantime, what is the difference between Google and with Gemini or ChatGPT? So everything in our platform based on the medical journals, just like we're using New English Media and JAMA, that the things that we are using in our system, that's why everything the doctors are getting is the correct answer. There is no misinformation in our platform. That's why we are shaping the healthcare industry right now.
And I love that you're focusing on doctors, because when it comes to topics like menopause, we know that most doctors only get like 1 to 2 hours of training when they're in medical school. Like, women spend most of their lives in menopause, way more time than they do in their reproductive years. So it's incredible that you're providing this resource.
Definitely, and also every day new founders is founded in the healthcare industry. And so when they were just studied in their medical school student time, some data can be old, but now they can keep up by using this kind of platforms. And that's why that's very helpful for them.
And hopefully that will trickle down into care in the doctor's office. But Tara, you are taking it out of the doctor's office, and you've got an example here. So I'd love for you to talk about Teal Health and what you're doing there.
So we created the first at-home cervical cancer screening. So you're all women mostly in this room. You know that it's not easy to get your cervical cancer screening, often what we call the pap smear. You're in a speculum, you're in stirrups, you're in a speculum. Not to mention the fact that it's hard to find a doctor's appointment. It's hard to find time out of your own day. So what we did is we made it easy for a woman to stay accurate on this life-saving screening. So we have this beautiful teal kit, which has a really easy-to-use teal wand. And what we showed in our clinical trial was that we use the exact same test that's used in the doctor's office. We have the exact same accuracy as when it's done in the doctor's office, but now women can just comfortably and privately collect at home instead. So it has been really wonderful. We came through the FDA in May, and we've started launching to women in July, and the the reviews have just been like so amazing. Like, everyone's just so grateful and happy, right? And this is really something for everyone, but right now in the US, 1 in 3 women are behind on their screening, and it is a completely preventable cancer through screening. And so this is just about creating an option that's easy for women, and the goal is to eliminate cervical cancer.
I applaud that. Yes, let's get there.
Yeah,
Thank you for doing the heavy lifting. And then, Monica, you are CEO of WISP, which is the largest women's telehealth company in the country. Talk to us about how WISP is reimagining healthcare for women.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So at WISP, we're really building that one-stop shop for all things women's health online. We provide same-day prescriptions for conditions like bacterial vaginosis, UTIs, herpes, fertility treatments, menopause treatments like HRT and prescription strength vaginal dryness cream, weight management, and sort of everything in between. We'll send a prescription to your pharmacy in 3 hours or less so you can pick it up same day. And that's the real pain point that we're solving for. Women are busy, right? We don't have 30 days on average to get an appointment with our OBGYN. Sometimes we need fast, effective care, and that's what WISP is building. We serve close to 2 million patients across all 50 states, and we're a cash pay offering. In most cases, our pricing ends up being cheaper than a copay, and you get it in just a few hours. So overall, it's just a win-win for women.
And Tara, I want to build on this idea of how busy women are, because you pointed out that women are behind on their screenings. And this is something we see at Flow Space a lot. They're skipping mammograms, they're skipping cervical cancer tests. You also have a at-home pap smear product in the pipeline?
No, this is the
that
pap
is the
smear.
pap
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I know, but
All right, well, there, clear it up.
No,
Cervical
that's-
cancer, pap smear.
Exactly. No, I mean, this is actually one of the things that is like very commonly confused, right? Like women don't know what the pap smear is for, right? So in COVID, we saw a massive decline in mammograms, right? We saw a massive decline in cervical cancer screenings. Luckily, colorectal actually stayed the way it needed to because we have at-home options. But cervical cancer screening didn't bounce back. And I think a big part of this is, one, we have a shortage of doctors, but two, I don't think women were ever told the importance of that screening, right? Or when we talk to people, they're like, oh, but I'll still have to go in for the other stuff that the PAP does. And you're like, PAP is a cervical cancer screening. Like, let's call it what it is. Let's make sure you're getting it done. Either do it in the doctor's office or do it at home, but it's really, really important. So yeah, that's our main thing. Usually we're asked to go like fix the mammogram too. And I'm like, come on, we just got through the FDA in May. Like, give me a minute
I
here.
know you're joking
But we'll
about
get to
that, but literally I wrote down one of my questions was like, why can't we have a better mammogram? Because I just think if men had to do that, like that would have been fixed a long time ago.
I know.
They're building a better.
They are. Well, there's blood tests coming.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Monica, talk to us about, how telehealth is really disrupting the care system in this country. Again, particularly for women. Why is this such an appealing option? And why is it so important to have this kind of access?
Well, it's important because women deserve better access to care. And it's really that simple. You can leverage telemedicine to meet with a provider online in literally just a few minutes. Answering an online questionnaire, maybe going back and forth with your provider if you have questions. You don't even need to jump on a phone call or video visit if you don't want to. We've structured the questionnaires in such a way that we can provide that fast, efficient, high-quality care. And for women, let's be real, like, if you've had a UTI, you know exactly what a UTI feels like. You don't need to go to urgent care. You shouldn't have to. You don't have to go to the ER at 2 a.m. to get treatment. Same thing applies for menopause symptoms, right? 4 out of 5 women suffer from menopause symptoms unnecessarily because they don't have access to care. They can't get in with a provider. And when they do, that provider has had, 1 to 2 hours of training in medical school, and they just aren't equipped to offer the full set of options, both prescription as well as all natural. And a combination of those two is often what women are looking for in a personalized treatment plan.
Well, I was just going to say that I feel like it's like we talk a lot, I mean, we get these questions all the time too, and we often say like access, which makes it sound like so formal, right? Like that, oh, rural and barriers to care, but this access issue is just everywhere, right? Like 1/2 of US counties doesn't have an OB-GYN to deliver a baby, let alone provide women-specific care. So if you are in one that has an OB-GYN, chances are she's really busy. The ratio of OB-GYNs to women in the US is 1 to 36,000. Like, it's just a problem.
Yes, it is a problem,
for everyone.
and one that open evidence is trying to solve by making sure that doctors who don't have that expertise can access the experts. Yes? Talk to us about what are some of the common uses you see physicians making of open evidence? Like, where are the gaps that open evidence is filling?
Actually, I just want to give an example from my personal story. I'm a stage 4 endometriosis patient, and I have been dealing with this disease more than 15 years. And maybe 10 years ago, one of the fine nights, I was having the cramps again. I was in a huge pain, and that's why we ended up in urgent care. And I explained my situation and give the details, at very late night. And the urgent care doctor doesn't know anything about endometriosis. Actually, I didn't know that either. So I was just telling that I'm having the pain. So he told me that it is very normal that every woman can have this one. No, it is not, because the men doctors believes that everything is on our mind. No, the pain is real. By the way, I just want to give a praise. If you have this kind of pain, please just insist that you're having something else, and that's why you just tell your doctors. They need to care about it. Based on my story, and the doctor just hopping off from the room and just, I will be back in 5 minutes. And he's going out from the room and come back again. And then in the end, he confessed. I said, oh my God, actually, I was calling my wife and asking some questions about your
Top-notch care there.
I said, what? And I hope your wife is a doctor. I said, don't worry, she's a doctor. And that's a relief.
Called
And
someone on WISP.
yeah, that is the thing. So that's when we realize that these kind of things are happening all over in the urgent care or any practitioners, especially for the women diseases. They didn't know anything about it. So that's why here we come. And the open evidence is helping the doctors. In the real time, they can ask the questions specifically in our platform. And based on one additional thing, the most of the clinical trials are based on the men's. And that's why it's not easy to get the real answers for the doctors when they're reading this, all the journals or the others first. That's why we helped our language model to mostly specify for the gender issues. And so that if a patient is a woman, okay, it needs to be treated differently. That's why we are helping, and we are very proud of it.
So our doctors use open evidence, and it helps them be more efficient so that they can spend most of their time treating patients as opposed to
Definitely. So they can create a relationship with the patients instead of, okay, I don't have a time, that's why we just keep this the appointment time very shortened. Instead of doing this, they can just ask the question and get the connection with the patients. And this is as a patient, this is what we want actually.
As horrifying as your personal story was of a doctor telling you, oh, this pain is normal, it is something that we hear all the time. I'm curious, has anyone in this room ever had a doctor tell them, your pain is normal, oh, it's just aging, it's just you're a woman, oh, this is no big deal? Yeah, like the show of hands. I mean, it's really, really incredible, and that's why the work that you are doing to change this. And I know that's one of the reasons why the at-home component is so important, right?
Well, yeah, I was just more going to say, I just don't feel like we've educated the doctors. We also haven't educated the women, right? Like we were sitting down with one of our OB-GYNs and she was like, we're like asking her what questions you ask. And she was like, oh, I ask like, has your period changed or is it different? And I'm like, well, like what has changed or different? Or like, why are you asking that? And she's like, well, I just want to know if like X, Y, or Z. And I was like, well, what's normal? She's like, well, it depends on your age. I'm like, okay, well, like I'm 40. Well, I was 42 at the time. Like, so we'll go with that. I was 42. And she was like, oh, it's this, that. And it was like, oh, you should never have pain related to your period that would require you to take Tylenol. And I was like, what? Right? But like that simple statement of like, let me tell you what normal is, right? I also have endometriosis. Perhaps if someone had said that way earlier, it might have been like, hey, that's not my experience, right? But we don't tell people what to even look for to like have a better conversation with the doctor. And so I think like spaces like this are so important because we're kind of sharing the information amongst ourselves. And the idea is like, I was actually thinking for you, like, how do we get some more of like it's like waiting for JAMA is a long time for a lot of women's stuff. Do you think about how we get like women's health earlier into the doctor's hands? Sorry,
Monica's we were not prepared for.
She was not prepared for that question.
I actually think we're seeing a paradigm shift where women are taking control over their healthcare and doing more at-home testing. We also offer a series of at-home test kits. And we'll send an in-home phlebotomist to your house if needed for more extensive testing. But I think you're seeing that women are leaning in. They're taking ownership over their health, oftentimes leveraging AI to analyze those results if they don't have an available doctor to go see. And at least that's a starting point for a conversation, right? You can get a sense of what are my red flags, what are my next treatment options? And so I actually think we're seeing patients play that role more and more today, which is great. And it's the partnership with them, the provider, that we need to bring them along and ask them the hard questions and insist, like, this is not normal. Why am I seeing these symptoms? Why is this biomarker off? So I think we are seeing a paradigm shift.
Yeah. Yeah, for us, we think about that a lot. We were lucky. NIH funding, NCI, National Cancer Institute funding, only, I think I saw a stat today or the other day, like only 2 or 3% goes into gynecological cancers, right? So we were actually quite lucky to get NIH funding and have like great investors to run an actual clinical trial. But I feel like most women's health isn't funded the same way, right? So as we want to get this information back into the doctors, there is kind of this interesting dynamic where like the patients are going to have to collect and empower the doctors, and kind of like how do we as platforms that have doctors on either side kind of listen to that information and see that pull from the market.
Burgum, is this a place where AI can play a role in terms of helping to gather information, synthesize information? What impact do you think AI can have?
Actually, this is also a little tricky questions because, when we are talking about the AI, some of the doctors, also patients, are also afraid of using it and asking the questions. Also, it is not easy to get a real answer. That's why you should know about yourself, about your disease if you're having that. That's why you need to ask the right questions and getting the real answers. When you get them, just, discuss with your doctor and say that, okay, this is the thing that I read, and is there anything else that you can recommend? When you're asking this kind of the things, and especially when you go to the doctor and say, okay, this is the treatment you're just giving to me, but is that real? And what based on the evidence that you're just wanted to treat me like this? So that's why they can think about it. Okay, maybe I should be more on to date by checking the new treatments, and so that they can leverage by using AI, and they have a place to go, and then you can also leverage them by using AI technologies for the patient. That's why we're just encouraging our team as well. So maybe should be the same thing with the patients as well, instead of with the doctors. Yeah.
Or I also find that a lot of the doctors on these platforms are actually some of the most forward thinking, right? I think we have this bias that, like, we're outside of San Francisco. Like, if we went to Stanford, clearly we're getting the absolute best care. But one of our OB-GYNs was at Stanford, and now was working with a PCOS online company. And I was like, oh, what would you have done before? And she's like, well, before I actually wouldn't have known. And I was like, well, what do you do now? She's like, oh, well, I got trained by going to work at this telehealth company focused on PCOS. And it's like, it's often the most curious, forward-thinking doctors are actually often on these platforms. And I don't think people should get too biased that, just because you're inside, an organization like Stanford or whatever, that's always going to be the most cutting edge or clinically up-to-date information, right? Like, we're here now, we're FDA approved, we're on guideline. Like, it's our doctors who are so excited to make sure that women are getting this. And they're all OB-GYNs who work at all of these institute places, but they're able to move faster when they go online. Oftentimes, the decisions in these larger clinical settings are really top down, and until it's the initiative of the top person to filter money or make change, it's not really patient led. So I think online platforms are actually full of doctors who are really smart and really curious and really forward thinking.
Yeah, we just hired a set of longevity specialists onto our platform, and are training our existing providers as well in peptide therapies specifically. So earlier today, we announced a partnership with Vesalius Longevity Labs to co-develop unique women's health peptides and exosome therapies. I'm sure you've heard a lot about peptides in the GLP-1 space, but there are many others that can help with things like inflammation, brain fog, overall energy levels, and really help women with a variety of different conditions, but specifically for menopause. So we're in the process of developing that now, but it's a bit controversial in the medical community because some doctors are very traditional, come from institutions where that type of work would never be encouraged. And so they need to turn to a telemedicine platform like us to help us co-develop these new treatment protocols. And we're really the first brand in the country to take women's health peptides to the market, and we'll be launching in January. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing that news. Congratulations. And Burgum, I know you wanted to jump in here.
Yeah, also I just want to look at it from the different angle to your point. So also some women are having the rare disease, and finding a specialty is not easy. And I know some people that need to fly to New York City to get this treatment, and it is not convenient. And so by using this kind of platforms, it's getting easier, because you know that by using the cell, like, okay, I know what kind of treatment I'm going to get, and maybe you can talk with your local HCPs and getting the best treatment for yourself, and making it convenient by using the new technologies. That's why that's a good thing.
Tara, Monica, I'm so struck by both of you really focusing on gaps in serving the healthcare needs of women. And I'm sure we could be here for 3 hours talking about this, answering this next question, but I'd like you to keep it tight. Talk to us about the ways in which the system as it currently exists is not set up to meet women's needs.
I can go first. So I think the system today is highly, highly fragmented, right? You have to see 5 different doctors every year to feel like you've properly keeping up with your health. And that's something that we're solving for by bringing all of the components of women's health onto one platform, so we build a seamless patient experience, right? Let's say you come to us for menopause care. Yes, we might start you on HRT or estradiol face cream, but there's also a higher rate of UTIs and migraines with menopause, and we offer those treatment categories as well. Whereas if you went to a specialist, they might not be able to prescribe for that. So bringing all of the pieces together under one roof is really how we're solving for a highly fragmented landscape that I think over time will continue to become consolidated. I think you're going to see a lot of partnership in the space. Like we even just discussed, like maybe partnering together, right? Because women don't want to jump around. The more you can bring together in one place, the better.
Yeah, the fragmentation is real. I have never been to the doctor more than I have since entering this phase of life, and it could be a full-time job. So thank you for trying to simplify it. Tara, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of ties to a little bit of what I said before. I just think there's, like, one of the challenges is how we've always done it, right? It's like when you get something rolled out into a health system, was there a large study? Have you been in JAMA and New England Journal of Medicine? And there's kind of like all of these things that if you think about it when it comes to women's health, just has systemic bias against it, right? Like we're just not gonna have that massive study because, by the way, you don't fund women's health studies and women's health research. And so I just think like the bigger problem is we have to figure out new ways to be accepting of innovation. We still wanna hold the same high standards, but recognize that like maybe the research is being held on a platform with women giving their feedback every day. I mean, we were overwhelmed. Obviously, like our product is, universally needed, so recruiting was a little bit easier, but in our clinical trial, 80% of women asked to be in the trial said yes, right? And so when you said clinical trials, we didn't include women in clinical trials until 1993. 30 years ago. And it wasn't until 2016 that we had to even look at the data differently, right? So I just think we have this idea that women are hard to reach or hard to include. We're not, right? Like we're all willing to pay our own money to get access to something. So I think it's almost like trying to figure out like how we together create that base of knowledge that then we go and say like, hey, I know you wanted X, Y, and Z, but yes, this isn't an NIH funded grant, but this is a 2,000 women study that longitude, I mean, we have the data, it's the same data, anyway, I think that's part of the problem. We just kind of have these legacy systemic biases that are hard.
Yeah, and for all the kind of rumblings that, we're talking about these things too much all of a sudden, the pendulum has swung all the way to the other side. Just note that like fewer than 3% of women who are eligible for hormone therapy are actually on it. So we are just starting this conversation, so don't let anyone tell you different. We're going to wrap with one final question that I'd like each of you to answer, and that's, as you look to the next 3 to 5 years and all of the innovation that we know will be coming in the health space, that we hope will be coming in the health space, what do you predict and what are you most excited to see? What are you most hoping is going to come to fruition? And Birgum, I'll start with you.
Probably everything is going to be in one place in 5 to 10 years. This is what I'm sensing. And when by using AI technology, when you get the test results, all the MRI scannings or the other stuff, when you combine all this data, AI can make a better treatment for you. And then it doesn't mean that when we're talking like this, some of the doctors or some of the patients are afraid of using AI and say, oh my God, it shouldn't be real, or they're going to take, from the doctor's standpoint, AI is going to take our jobs. No, it's not. No one is going to take your doctor's job. This is definitely, AI is there for support doctors, especially so that they can give better patients.
It's a tool.
It's a tool so that they can just combine and give more precious data to the patients.
Greater customization, it sounds
Yes,
like
definitely.
as well. Yeah. Tara?
I think it's really just more access, right? Like everything that we're saying here is like you need to be able to trust what you're finding, but women are out there searching on their own. So I think like using AI, finding what you need, but then being able to actually access a doctor that will like believes in that stuff too. I think before we've just been really siloed and you could only access the doctors that were in your area. And if you're lucky to live in a hub that has a lot of innovation, great. And if you weren't, it's gonna be 20 years before you get changed. So I think we're just gonna see a lot more control and a lot more insight into like what you're after with like hopefully more trust.
I think 3 to 5 years out, we're really going to unlock the potential of personalized medicine with the help of AI, with the help of telemedicine platforms that are continuing to increase access to care. And I think personalized medicine will combine traditional prescriptions with OTC supplements as well as peptides and exosomes. I think it'll be really interesting to see how providers and patients have those conversations around what the best treatment plan is for them and not necessarily, you know, the strict protocols that we've been accustomed to all of this time. So I think we'll start to see a lot more personalized medicine, which is really exciting, right? Medicine that's based on your blood work and based on your holistic health. We're not there yet. I think we're getting close. But yeah, I think that's what I'm most excited about.
And let's hope that personalization is not just at the individual level, but also backed by research that we hope everyone's going to be investing in and
Amen to that.
specific to women, because we are not tiny men, as a lot of doctors like to say. All right. Well, Monica, Tara, Burgum, thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you.
today.